How are you doing, folks? Hope we're all keeping well. This video is going to be around children. So we obviously see an awful lot of children that comes in through our doors. But the reasons that we see them can vary from child to child. Now, 9 times out of 10, a parent will come into us and start to say that, oh, I think my child has a couple of growing pains, or they've low back pain, or they've knee pain, or Achilles pain, or they've shoulder and neck pain. And it basically creeps in over a couple of weeks. Generally tends to get quite sore, and then we tend to see the patient or see the child when they're unable to complete a training session, or they start to get quite sore and they're unable to continue. So ultimately my job, what I'm trying to go on to explain to you here, is exactly what is growing pains. So growing pains mainly happen in the lower limbs. And the reason it happens is that you have 2 growth plates that, let's say, are just below your knee or just above your ankle. And what happens is those 2 growth plates grow away from each other. So the bone in the center stays steady, it stays the same, and the 2 bones grow away. Now what happens is the bone grows quite fast, and sometimes the muscle doesn't grow as fast as the bone. When that happens, the muscle tends to be on an awful lot more of a stretch. That's why when a child is going through a growth spurt, which we call peak height velocity, what happens is that they will start to lose a lot of their coordination skills that they had before, ultimately because the brain is to contend with a larger muscle mass, a stretch in the a larger bone mass, a stretch in the muscles. And ultimately what happens is it's not able to tolerate the load as well as what it would have done before. So what happens then is they tend to get knee pain, or tend to get Achilles pain, or they tend to get hamstring pain or calf pain. Now the other side of things is we might see children that has low back pain as well. Low back pain 9 times out of 10 is going to be down through number 1, due to the growing pains, or due to the increase in the growth, that they've lost that coordination to be able to squat, or to be able to push or to press or to hold a plank, and they haven't got that much endurance in it. Then it could be playing video games, could be a number of things that it could be doing. But basically what we want to try and figure out is, number 1, are these growing pains? Number 2, are we able to fix it? And number 3, if we be able to fix it, when we're going to be able to get them back onto a pitch. Some people might be very, very alarmed that their child is in pain, but 99% of the time it's absolutely normal, especially when they're going back to school and they're playing a lot more sports. And they're going from classroom to sports to back home to eat to another sport. It's a lot that they have to do, and it's a lot that their bodies have to contend with, especially when they're going through that growth spurt. What we do here in the clinic is we'll be able to identify, and just by talking to you, whether they've gone through that peak height velocity, which is the peak rate at which they grow at. If they've gone through it, then what are they like at the other end of it? What are their movement competencies like? What are they able to find a squat? Are they able to get into a squat and out of a squat? And most importantly, then, are they able to hold that position? And all of these are kind of skills that we're able to learn when we're younger quite easily, but then when you have to contend with a larger bone mass or muscle mass, then the coordination tends to get a little bit worse. So your child might look a little bit more clumsy on the pitch, but that's only temporary, only lasts a couple of months, or they may start to run on their toes a little bit more. So all of these things are actually quite common that we see in the clinic, and they're quite easily fixed. So I suppose the easiest thing we can kind of say to you is not to be alarmed by it. See how your child is responding to it, but if after a week or 2 and they're actually still quite sore, you probably need to come in. We'll find some stretches, find some strengthening exercises for them, and help them feel a little bit more comfortable. Long term, these things generally have to be managed over maybe weeks to a short number of months, maybe 1 to 2. But ultimately we don't tend to stop them playing sport unless it's got to a stage where it's severely limiting them, and any sort of overload is going to annoy it. Good things when it comes down to tendons is that generally children's tendons are not stiff enough to be able to break down like they would in older adults, where they have a very, very thick tendon. But it's also a lot more rigid, and their tendons are pliable, they're able to absorb, and they're able to be very, very elastic. So long-term issues with tendons generally don't tend to be a problem unless you're leaving it go. I know back in the 80s and 90s we mightn't have known as much as we know now, so some of the issues you might have had with the tendons as your child is going to change over time. But yeah, look, guys, we're always here to help and ask any questions that you have. But the main point we're trying to get across in this is that don't be alarmed. These growing pains are all natural, they are fixable, but you probably do need to get professional help if it's going on longer than a week or two. Okay, guys, any problems and any questions, just give us a shout here at the clinic. Okay, cheers.